Okay, so say I have a purpose to get more people to watch a hypothetical TV show.
Wow.
I'm just coming up with this right now. What would the first steps be to try to get to that end goal?
Right. Yeah, so it's a really good question, and
Mm.
the way you go about this is really think about the people that would potentially be benefiting from your product, so from this hypothetical TV show,
Yeah.
right? And so you would think about, okay, so what do they do? What are their titles?
Mm.
What do they do during the day potentially? So you essentially build a buyer persona,
Okay.
right? You kind of
What bio persona? Can you talk about that a little
That
bit?
was my accent, sorry. I meant you build a buyer persona.
Oh, okay.
So you think about, who buys your product or who just watches your show, right?
Okay.
And so you think about, in most specific terms, about the individual that you're trying to reach, right?
Okay.
And from there, then you essentially just try to tie back into what they're looking to achieve, and you really then tailor your message, for example, on social media,
Mm.
to help them understand this particular TV show is exactly what you're looking to get out of it. And by watching it, you can learn amazing things. You get maybe recipes how you can be successful in Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
right? Maybe you learn tricks from professionals that otherwise you wouldn't be able to meet, or that otherwise you wouldn't be able to speak to, things like that, right? And
Oh.
social selling and is essentially the same thing, right? So when you look at LinkedIn, for instance,
Hmm.
right, many people on LinkedIn, they want to sell something, right? Maybe
Yeah.
it's themselves, maybe they have a product, maybe they are in particular industries like real estate, insurance, right, or high-tech sales, whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter. And so many people then talk about their title, their VP of sales or something
Mm.
like that, or they, they talk about being a director of something and having made club so and so many
Uh-huh.
times, right? And that's not particularly helpful to me, assuming that I'm the person wanting to buy a particular
Yeah.
product, right? Because I don't want to know about how you made club 15 times, right?
Yeah.
I want to know how you help the people like me achieve what they are looking
Yeah.
to address in their life, right? So
Okay.
how do you solve my problem essentially?
So if I wanted to start a social media campaign, would you recommend starting on LinkedIn and trying to convey that one problem to people, or would you recommend what would your tips and tricks be for LinkedIn, I guess, and
Right.
then talk about other social medias after that?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is it really depends a lot on that audience that you're looking to achieve, right? There's no silver bullet, there's no particular platform that is particularly great for anybody, right?
Ah,
And
so Facebook doesn't have all the answers.
it doesn't,
Oh,
unfortunately.
oh,
It has many answers, some of which you may or may not like. And so the thing is really think about this persona that you're trying to engage with, right? Um, what platform are they most likely to use, right?
okay.
Are they most likely to be found on Facebook, or are they maybe more on LinkedIn? Where do they share content? What kind of content do they consume? And so from that perspective, then you think about the one or two platforms that you actually are going to be engaging with and
Okay.
that you're going to be using in order to actually speak to your audience. So there's no particular, like I said, one size fits all approach, right? You really have to think about it every time, depending on, are you trying to do this for your own personal needs?
Mm.
Are you trying to help a business? And in many cases, it really varies quite a bit. On the other hand, there are some common threads, right? So,
Yeah.
for example, for B2B companies, in many cases, a combination of Twitter and LinkedIn is fabulous.
Okay.
It works great, right? Because
Mm.
professionals are on LinkedIn, and they also, in many cases, have, for example, a Twitter profile, or the company has a Twitter
Mm.
profile because it's relatively easy to maintain, right? And so
Mm.
companies will use that combination as a sales channel, essentially, or to share news about their business.
Okay.
And when you have consumer products, just generally speaking, maybe Pinterest and Instagram and a combination of these two together with Facebook might be much more appropriate and much more effective.
Interesting. So say I was a new client and I came to you and I said, our company, we just raised our first round of funding. We now have some money to actually pay for a social media campaign. Our product is in the baby industry. How would you go about making suggestions, or how would you go about the onboarding process for a new client in that situation?
Right. So the process for anybody who wants to help, that particular company should be one where they really try to understand the business model, right? It's about understanding what is this business trying to do, right? So are they trying to sell to mothers? Are they trying to sell a particular product maybe to families in particular? Is it maybe an insurance or maybe an education kind of financial foundation that you want to lay for your baby so that they can go to college later on, right?
Okay.
So there's a whole variety of products obviously that somebody can have. So you need to understand as a consultant how what are they trying to do and what are they already doing, right? Because the important thing is also, when you look at social selling, it shouldn't be standing on its own, right? It needs to tie into everything that a company is already doing, right?
Interesting.
So, for example, if you have a marketing campaign where you have webinars or where you, where you set up events, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that those things tie together and that they amplify each other, right? Social media is a fantastic tool for amplification of things like that. But, if you just talk about yourself again, if you don't show the benefit of attending a webinar or a particular event, then you're kind of losing your audience, right? So it's all about helping that audience understand, why should I be talking to this company? Why does it matter, right? How is it going to impact my life? How is it going to make my life better? At the end of the day, that's what everybody's looking for as an individual, right? Everybody is trying to find a solution to a personal or to a business problem, right? And so if you talk to people on social media, if you want to do social selling, that is really what you need to understand. How do you solve somebody's problem? If you just talk about yourself, if you just talk about, how awesome your product is, nobody's going to care about that. Right?
That's what I was going to lead into
I
right
know.
now, is how awesome a product this is. But that's the first part of today's episode with Jock. We talked about the ideas about your social media strategies. Coming back in our second part, we're going to focus a little bit more on startups they're planning. We're going to go back to webinars and some other things that were brought up to emphasize those and see what ideas startups might be missing. So, all right.